Hi guys, welcome to episode 6 of Red Shirts Die First. This is your chronological exploration of the Star Trek Next Generation episodes from season 1 all the way through to season 7, or until one of us dies. We are getting closer. Every time we say that, we're definitely getting closer. So, what are we doing this week, Tom?
This week, The Lonely Among Us. Original air date November 2nd, 1987. Written by Michael Halperin. As always, Memory Alpha one-line synopsis for this episode. While transporting delegates, an alien life form wreaks havoc on the Enterprise computer and begins to take over the minds of her crew.
Wow.
And a ridiculous B-plot.
Yes. Involving the delegates.
What the fuck with this makeup, man?
Yeah, it is. It's lizards versus dogs, isn't it?
It's like Blake Seven, type.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It is. It is incredible. I've actually got. I'm going to throw some trivia out right at the start because we've got some good stuff actually for this one. So this episode does have the first appearance of Mark Alimo, who may not ring any bells, but he is Gul Dukat in DS9. So he actually plays a number of characters on TNG. This is his first appearance on TNG. He plays the first Cardassian in a few seasons' time. Yeah, and he is obviously Gul Dukat in DS9, who is just such a badass.
Oh, okay. Deep cut.
Yeah, and he's playing I can't even pronounce it. It's like Badar Nddd. One of the dog creatures.
I'm sorry, could you just pronounce that again?
Badar Nddd. How would you say it? It's like Badar N-D-D? I mean, what is that?
Badar Nddd.
Brilliant.
I have no idea, man.
It's also the first appearance of Colin Meaney as well, who plays Mars O'Brien.
Oh, yeah.
So,
of course.
Right, so I guess we better do the recap, hadn't we?
The recap.
Tea, Earl Grey, hot.
So strap ourselves in, Earl Grey at the ready. It's gonna be a bumpy one, this one, I think.
Oh my gosh. So the episode starts with always as a captain's log, and the Enterprise is taking on board some foreign delegates. Tell us about these foreign delegates, Andy.
Well, we get David Icke's lizard men, don't we?
We do. They are David Icke's lizard people. Is this the Anunnaki?
I reckon. I mean, do you know what? From the crazy kind of illustrations I've seen, like the sort of Crudo Mutua Anunnaki illustrations, which may or may not be bullshit, by the way, they do look, there's a striking resemblance there to the David Icke lizard men.
Can these drawings be sourced pre-1987?
Do you know what? They might have actually TNG might have had the drop on them. Maybe they were the originators of all this.
This might have just been some leaked sketches.
Yeah, you could be onto something there. That's the real conspiracy.
Here it is. We're through the looking glass,
we are. Yeah, so both of these races want to join. So there's two races they're taking on board. The Antikins, who are the kind of giant dogs we're going to meet shortly, and the Selly, who are the lizard men.
They're kind of like a cross between dogs and that weird dragon from Neverending Story.
Oh, okay. I was thinking for the giant dogs, the Barf from Spaceballs.
Yes.
Kind of the obvious one.
They're like a skinny John Candy.
Oh, R.I.P.
R.I.P.D. indeed.
Yeah. So both races want to join the Federation because they look like they're going to be really good candidates, don't they?
Oh, yeah. Boys, sign them up.
They're going to fit right in with the Vulcans and the Betazoids. I've got some random trivia for this as well. Okay, so apparently when they were making the lizard heads, like the masks, originally they were like really like heavy, and the actors couldn't actually move with them on. So you'll see, like, every time you see the Selly in, like, the background, the ones who aren't, like, actually speaking, they're basically just standing there like statues because they can't do anything else.
So, like, this heavy-ass, like, head equipment on.
Yeah, their necks are, like, at breaking point.
I've noticed with the Antikins, it was a lot of, like, awkward ADR and, like, heavy jaw wiggling, like, just to kind of get something to move with that mask. Well,
that's how they pronounce their names, isn't it? There's some really disturbing kind of lizard noises as well, isn't there?
Yeah, what the frick, man? That's some pretty nice.
It's like clicking.
Yeah.
So anyway, the actual plot here is that the Enterprise is taking these delegates to Parliament, where they're going to be talking about their differences because they hate each other. We're still pre-credits, aren't we, at this point? But we do head to the bridge.
Yes. So is it the Sealay come on board first, and they immediately know that the Antikins have been there already?
Yeah, they're not happy.
We can smell them.
We must be upwind from the Anticans.
How close are our quarters?
Because they're gonna have fun later on, aren't they?
Basically, just the whole episode, like the B plot of this episode, spoilers, is just them kind of eating each other off screen.
and capturing random Enterprise crew.
Yeah, what?
It's great.
There's some like weird cannibalism going on somewhere on the ship.
Yeah, I think the great thing with this B plot is every time we kind of cut to the B plot, and this happens a few times, you're like, oh yeah, these guys are on board. I completely forgot about them. Like every time.
Like, oh yeah, these guys are on, but wait a minute.
What's going on? Who the hell let these on?
I know.
They dropped the ball, man.
Oh, they really did.
So we end up on the bridge anyway. Riker and Picard pop onto the bridge from the turbo lift, and Data tells them that there's an unusual energy object ahead.
Yes, and this is where we see the giant purple fart cloud out in space.
Yes, it's definitely it looks like one that Q might have dropped.
Yeah.
Have that Picard. Just wafting around.
Damn you, Q.
Yeah. Picard wants to go and have an investigation of it because he's being nosy, isn't he?
Yeah, he gets a little bit too close though, really, doesn't he?
He does.
We'll find out later on.
We're still pre-credits, so we're actually doing quite a few things before we cut to our music. So we go down to the sensor room, and you know what? I don't think we ever see this set again.
Yeah, is this the first and last appearance of the sensor room?
I think it might be. I don't recall it. I mean, I know sometimes they kind of reappropriated like sets, and they just kind of dressed them up with like a fake wall and stuff, and kind of turned them into something else. So they might be in one of the one of the away. What are they called? The runabouts, the little ships.
Oh yeah.
They've just kind of. Anyway, Worf is down there. He looks bored as fuck, mate.
He does. He really does. Is this when they pass through the cloud, or they get close to it?
Yeah, so they pass through the energy cloud, and then we go back to the sensor room, and Worf gets kind of zapped.
This is some great zap
it's
acting.
Brilliant. I love it. He goes, ah! And he gets pwned again.
He does get pwned hardcore, and we finally get the credits.
We do. So back in the sensor room, and Worf is kind of what's he doing? He's kind of acting a bit violent. He becomes violent, doesn't he?
He's on the floor, and is this where I think LaForge discovers that he's been knocked out, and he's in the room with him.
Yeah,
right?
Because LaForge is down there as well.
He reports to Picard that he saw something like through his visor. He saw some kind of an energy kind of come into the room, but Picard's not completely convinced at first. But I think that's a little bit later on. But LaForge sends out for help. And that's when Crusher, LaForge, and a random black shirt come in?
Black shirt.
It might be a black shirt. I'm not sure. It could have been a blue shirt. Maybe I just had my brightness turned down. But Worf pwns him straight away. He's just like choking the shit out of this dude.
So it turns out that Tom was just watching this entire episode in black and white because he couldn't afford colour.
Yes. I was watching it on an old black and white night.
So Crusher uses some for like special Wesley sedatives on him to knock him out.
She goes to that big box with Wesley written on the top.
I love that she's always got like that kind of stuff on standby.
Absolutely, in case of emergency, break Wesley.
Yeah. And they kind of cart him off, don't they, to the sick bay?
Yes.
We go to the captain's ready room now, and LaForge is reporting to Picard.
Yes, this is when he says that he swears he saw something through his visor when Worf was zapped and knocked out in the sensor room.
Yeah. You're gonna love this because we now get our first look at the Anticans. So go on, Tom. Talk us through this.
Well, essentially, these kind of junked out looking John Candy type dog monsters.
Do you know? I feel like we're doing a disservice to Spaceballs here. Oh, I'm very sorry about that. That was my. We just cut that out. That's just.
Go to Red Alert. Number 1, status.
I don't know what that was. I think that was my Bluetooth speaker. This is how professional.
I think we're being fired upon. Shields up.
Red Alert. It does involve changing the light bulb, sir.
Red, let's go all the way up to Brown Alert. Yeah. There's no such thing as Brown Alert, sir.
Oh God. So we see the giant space dogs, don't we?
We do see the giant space dogs, and Riker is talking to them about their dietary requirements.
Yeah.
And this is where they're talking about the synthesized meat, is it
It
not?
is, yeah.
I guess they get their meat from the Matter replicator on board the Enterprise or something.
Yeah, and the Antikins are like disgusted by this because they prefer to
Yeah.
actually eat like real meat.
Yeah, they slaughter, debone, and all that shit, and they eat their meat, and they're not down for this Matter replication. I mean, I'm surprised that, people on board the Enterprise still eat anything kind of closely resembling meat, because you'd think, like, in this future...
They just pop a pill.
Yeah, maybe, yeah, like Jetsons style.
But just have like food like directly teleported into the stomach. You don't even have to
Yeah.
eat. You can just be sat at the bridge and it just like beams in like mate, that sounds like a future I do not want to be living in.
No, it doesn't sound like it. Yeah, I mean, I'll take a Matter replicator any day of the
Yeah.
week, my friend.
They
T. L. Grey, hot.
definitely. So Tasha Yar was down with Riker as well, and she doesn't look very impressed.
She looks like she's going to throw
She
up.
does, yeah. And we end up in sickbay now. We've got some pretty tight cuts, haven't we, in this episode? Like it's darting around like the scenes pretty quickly.
Yeah, we go back to we're in the sick bay, and Crusher's wearing like the weird Tiger Electronics like R zone on her head. You ever see that the Tiger
Yes.
R zone?
Yeah.
Yep.
Do you know what? It's
What
the
the
only time
frick?
we ever see that bit of headgear as well.
I think it's the only time the Tiger R zone has ever been mentioned outside of 1995. Either.
Wow. Yeah, it looks so naff, doesn't it?
It does, but it's just enough for the entity, whatever it is, to pass from Worf to Crusher. Because I'm assuming it has to have some kind of an electrical circuitry to zap itself
Yeah, I think that's how it's operating, isn't it?
from person to person. Because it's not like contact or anything like that. It seems to be more, it's contact through electronics on board the ship.
Yeah, it's like kind of so this energy that they picked up is like kind of trapped in like almost like an electrical current, I guess, and then it's just passing. So it body jumps, doesn't it?
Yeah, they kind of scooped it in by accident when they passed through the purple fart cloud.
Yeah,
and it's stuck on board the ship.
like a bad
And
fart.
it is just floating around the ship like a fart in a spacesuit, or a spaceship in this case. I mean, is this the point where it starts messing with the ship?
Well, it just passes into Crusher, and I think it's fully contained in Crusher, although it may also be... I don't think we have... I'll be completely honest, guys, anyone who's listening to this. We're recording this episode a little bit late, and I watched this episode like almost 2 weeks ago now. So I don't know, cut this out if you want, but like I'm actually kind of forgetting. Like,
Full disclosure, I watched it again today, and I'm still struggling to remember what happened in this episode.
It's good to know.
So yeah, it passes from Worf into Crusher, and this is when... Is this the scene where Crusher goes off to see Wesley, or is this a little bit before that? I think this is where Troy comes into sickbay, actually. Correct me. And sees Worf just after he's kind of woken up and asks him, if he's okay, and she's like, ask Dr. Crusher. And Crusher starts acting all skitsy and weird, and
Yeah.
does something like, everything's fine. We're both fine now. Like,
It is, yeah. You would, I guess, on their behalf, like they've not been together as a crew very long, so maybe they don't know each other too well. But surely Troy, of all the times she would be useful with that Betazoid mind reading or whatever, surely she would sense that there's something wrong with Crusher.
You'd think it would happen now, wouldn't you? I mean, Crusher is acting weird.
Yeah, totally.
Obviously weird. But she doesn't really pick up anything. She just kind of looks at Worf like,
So we do get to the point now where in the Crusher kind of home, the homestead, you've got Wesley in there doing God knows what.
Oh, God.
Well, and he sort of fights back the urge to vomit.
Yep.
Just like any on-screen appearance of Wesley's just sets me off, man.
So Wesley comes on screen and Andy vomits in his mouth.
It's like an allergic reaction.
And has to swallow it back down deep into his soul.
Ready to be regurgitated for the next scene. But he's going on about warp drives, isn't he? He's showing off again.
Oh, he's such a little smart ass. I hate him.
And his mum is kind of interested about navigation, isn't she?
Yeah, he remarks like, this is the first time you've ever showed any interest in anything that I've ever talked about before. Usually it's just shut up, Wesley, a backhand, and then you give me a biscuit which tastes funny and I go to sleep for a while.
Oh, definitely. I think that's the way it's got to be, really. You'd have to, wouldn't you?
Yeah, you just slip it in a Tootsie Roll or something.
Yeah. So we do pop to the bridge now, and Crusher kind of wanders in. She kind of, I don't know, kind of drifts in, like kind of half cut.
Yeah, she kind of floats out of Wesley's room and straight up to the bridge, and she's still acting really, really funny.
Yeah, and I guess it's because we know that we're expecting her to be acting funny, but how like the rest of the crew doesn't pick up on this is just a bit weird, isn't it?
Nah, yeah, she comes in and asks LaForge something, and he's like, yep, and, you know, unless the layout of the ship has changed completely or something, like, yep, this is still the bridge or whatever the fuck, this is still the navigation panel.
But she does kind of wander over to one of the science stations, and she's kind of tapping away, and kind of Data's there next to her, noticing that she's looking up helm control, and he kind of comments, you know, what does helm control have to do with, you know, medical research? But then doesn't do a damn thing to stop her. Like, what's going on?
Everybody is so laid back on this ship.
So laid back. Like, she just wanders into the bridge. What is she doing there? And she's, you know, dooping away.
Yeah, immediately someone should have kind of asked her, like, is there some sort of a medical emergency, Dr. Crusher?
What the fuck are you doing here?
No. Okay, then, maybe get the fuck out.
But the thing does kind of suddenly jump kind of into the science station. And I think at this point, it's now, like, in the ship.
Yes.
And Crusher's, like, super confused.
Yeah, she has no idea how she got there, what she's doing, and we know that it wasn't her. It was this bizarre entity which is now taking control of the ship. And do the two science stations kind of fail immediately now?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So, and I think the helm control goes down, or I think they might get a message from engineering saying they've had some sort of disaster down there. So basically, they pop to they have like a conference room with like, so the chief engineer isn't present, but there's a Mr. Singh who's
There is a Mr. Singh, yes.
Set up. He's a red shirt in disguise.
He is definitely a red shirt in disguise. Yeah, disguised as a gold shirt, but I knew what was coming.
He has no
I knew
first
exactly
name.
what was coming. Nope.
Yeah. So they try and figure out what's going on, but there's no like senior engineering staff there. So no Argyle, no McDougal, no Derpy, none of them.
No, McDougal and Derp are off on their own adventures. Or no, they were court-martialed and hung, weren't
They
they?
were fired out of an airlock, weren't they?
Yeah, fired out of an airlock into the recesses of deep space.
Yeah. So they're kind of talking about the malfunctions, but then we have this very kind of quick cut back to the Antikins now.
These are the dog people.
The dogs, yeah. The space dogs.
Space candies.
Honestly, we're doing such a disservice to that film and John Candy.
I'm sorry.
That's right. They've got kind of these like energy knives, have they? What are they called? It's like little weapons.
Yeah, they're like these weird kind of miniature lightsabers for slaughtering livestock.
Yeah.
But realistically, they're just kind of prison shanks, aren't they?
Yeah.
Riker's grilling him like a naughty kind of school kid.
Yeah,
getting caught with like a cigarette.
Riker is not impressed.
He's not impressed at all. He's like, you do realise these are like murderous weapons, right? He's like,
just murdering animals. It's fine. We eat them. I've kind of put here that these aliens suck balls. I just really didn't. Both of these alien races just are so bad, aren't they?
They look ridiculous. They could have just kind of left the people out of it entirely. And just kind of packed out that A-plot a little bit more. It still wouldn't have been a fantastic episode, but it probably would have been a lot better than this.
That's right. So we've still got a whole load of problems going on board the Enterprise, haven't we? So they get kind of, I think they were travelling along at warp, and then suddenly the warp drive cuts out, and then the subspace radio cuts out, and then Riker and Data and Picard have this chat, and Riker tells Picard that there's some sort of saboteur on board.
He does.
And then Riker name drops to Ferengi. Like he's still trying to like big them up as this big threat.
Yeah, you're not going to push that agenda any further, I'm afraid. Not with the giant 20-foot butt face.
No. You've had your chance to establish them as the greatest threat as the Federation has ever known, and you've failed.
It was an awful episode.
It was. Yeah. Why are we still talking about it? Terrible.
Don't know. Another classic.
Yeah. Oh god, we actually get this thing about private eyes, don't we? Where they're talking about like investigating like who could be responsible, and someone says something about a private eye, and then Sherlock Holmes gets name dropped.
Yeah, Data's like inquiry, private eye, and they have to kind of explain, what a detective is, and Data kind of gets that glint in his eye, like
a little twinkle, because we know what's coming next, don't we?
Brent Spiner is great in this episode.
Yeah, he is. Yeah,
it's cheesy as hell. Oh my god!
What, the whole Sherlock Holmes
like puffing the pipe and shit. It's amazing.
Don't worry, we're gonna get there.
One thing is clear: almost all of the peace delegates answered our questions with lies.
Imprecise, Lieutenant. They omitted certain truths, which in itself tells us something.
We can learn something from non-disclosure?
Indubitably, my good woman.
Oh no, we got a Wesley scene again, down in engineering.
Back to engineering, and Andy throws up in his mouth again. That's to swallow it even deeper into the pit of his soul. Good man. I'm proud of you.
Oh, it's getting harder every time.
So Mr. Singh, the red shirt in disguise, wants rid of him immediately and tells him to go do some schoolwork.
Yep, good man.
Wesley's kind of like, I can learn more here than I can in school. And he's like, I'm inclined to agree, but it's captain's orders, so you get the fuck out.
Shut up, Wesley.
And he goes, thankfully, and the sick feeling is gone.
It is. Well, no, it's not, because we stay with him into the Crusher home, don't we now?
Oh, God, we do. I forgot this.
So Wesley, I think this is just to kind of tie in what was happening with his mum earlier on. So Wesley kind of pops in, and Crusher doesn't remember any of this chat that Wesley was saying earlier about.
No,
warp
she
drives.
doesn't.
But I reckon she just tunes out like pretty much everything he says.
Yeah, I mean, you would do, wouldn't you?
You'd
really?
have to.
It's that, or just smother him when he's asleep.
It's like that selective memory that old people get, like your grandparents.
Yes.
You know, where they just kind of, if it's something to do with them, they kind of remember it, but otherwise.
It's very similar to that. He's being such a big-headed little dick here, though, isn't he?
He is, yeah. Oh, we have our first death. We have a bit of tragedy on the Enterprise now.
We do, yep. The red shirt decides as a goalie.
Yep.
He takes it bad.
So, yeah, he gets his ponage, and Worf kind of wanders in and finds Singh is dead, and then we kind of cut to Picard looking shocked.
Dun dun dun!
One of those smell the fart moments.
It was a big smell the fart moment. Didn't he? Singh kind of gets shocked at a panel when he's down in engineering.
That's right. So do you think the energy, the life form, was trying to get into Singh at that point?
I think it may have been potentially trying to get into Singh. As to why, I mean, I suppose there's maybe a few reasons, but I don't think it meant for his death in this case.
I agree. We do have a quick captain's log moment, which I'm going to skip because it has Wesley in it. We end up back with the Antikins now. So Yara is interrogating them, thinking that they have something to do with the death of Mr. Singh, and they don't give a fuck, do they?
No, they're kind of trying... Is this their attempt to try and tie this into the main plot?
Yeah, it is.
Or just to remind you that there are these other two alien races on board.
Like I said earlier.
Do you remember these guys?
Yeah, the Selly and the Antikins. But like I said earlier, every time we cut to them, I'm like, oh yeah, these guys exist. I forgot about them already.
Yeah. Every time we got to them, I was kind of breaking out in fits of laughter.
It is hysterical. They're so bad. They really are.
Especially when they bump into each other later on.
I do. I mean, maybe we'll expand on this a little bit in the kind of final thoughts. But I think this is the first time they try and run like a dedicated kind of A plot and B plot, and try and do something clever where they're like tying them in at various points.
Oh, they failed.
They did fail. But I think they will do this with a bit more success in later episodes. But I think always the best kind of TNG episodes have been the ones where it's just an A plot done really well.
Yeah, agreed.
So we end up kind of, oh god, we've got a ridiculous Troy moment now with hypnosis in sickbay.
Yeah. Captain Obvious has to try and make herself useful in some way again. And this is where she hypnotizes Worf and Crusher.
Yeah. What did you think of the little hypno box that she brought out?
It's just more ridiculous early season Star Trek-ery.
It is, because again, I don't think she ever tries like hypnosis again. Like...
No, since when did she turn into Paul McKenna?
You're feeling very sleepy. Look into the eyes, around the eyes, into the eyes.
You're under. My god, I mean, she must just be thinking to herself this whole time, like, how much longer can I keep this up before these rubes get onto me?
What, the actress or the character?
Sick
burn. We're so sorry, Marina.
Love you, Marina.
Yeah, we don't hate you, really.
Okay, man. Okay.
I don't hate anyone. Where am I even going with this?
I don't know. Back to the episode.
Please, Tom, save me. Carry on.
So this is when Data turns into Sherlock Holmes, having read all of his literature, or all literature based around him and all of his case files. So he's got the pipe out.
Yeah.
And he's talking like a complete Nick. It's fantastic. Brent Spiner is being so funny in this scene.
Yeah, I think he's kind of comedy gold, isn't he?
He is, yeah. He's kind of going through all the tropes and cliches of every kind of
Yeah.
detective novel, but then he basically says that, or suggests that whatever is left, even no matter kind of how improbable it is, must, be the truth.
It's elementary, my dear Riker. Sir.
And then he inspects the captain's fish.
He does.
There's kind of like a he looks in the fish tank with a magnifying glass.
Yeah. Yar doesn't like the smoking, does she? Because he kind of walks past her and she kind of does this, like, disgusted, like, oh, get that away from me.
Yeah, he's got some dirty old Holborn in there or something.
Disgusting, some drum.
Yeah.
Cheap and nasty. Maximum tar.
Yes.
So we go back to sickbay and we have, oh god, we've got Troy with her random kind of instant hypno device. We've got some terrible I mean, she does get better as an actor, but we've got some terrible acting from the Doctor here.
Yeah, I noticed this actually. Like, some of those reads are like, whew, you couldn't have done this again.
It's
Maybe this was the best one.
We did 20 takes.
We did 8.
That was the
We
best
did 80 takes. That was the best one.
Definitely. What do we get? We get another cut to Picard and Troy now having a chat about kind of what was going on, what she sensed in Crusher. And Data's there with his pipe again. And
He is.
Picard doesn't like the pipe, does he? He wants rid of it. Such a spoil sport.
I know. It's like, can we keep this going without the pipe, Data?
Just grow up. We pop to the bridge now, and I've kind of noted in the show notes that we're really kind of getting around the ship in this episode.
We are.
Which isn't a complaint, but I think we're only about 15 minutes in, and we've done like 22, 23 different scenes now.
Yeah, it's crazy how much it kind of flies around,
Great
but
cuts.
nothing really happens again.
Yeah.
It's the same problem. Well, I mean, apart from obviously, there is something on board, and there is something that's disengaged everything on the ship. Is this the point where Picard gets zapped?
You're right. So we're actually a bit further in, aren't we? Sort of maybe about 30 minutes in. So Picard does get zapped, and LaForge kind of sees something like enter him. So he has his little kind of magic visor moment, and then immediately Picard starts acting weird. Oh dear God! So we're into like the final stretch of this episode now, where we kind of have a semblance of a plot now, don't we?
A little bit, yeah. One is forming 40 minutes in.
Yeah, like they've got to like cram it in really fast now. So Picard wants to reverse course and go back to the big giant fart that was floating around.
He does. He wants to pull a 180, and they're already late for this scheduled meeting at Parliament.
Yes.
So everyone is super confused. Doesn't LaForge say, like, are you sure about this 180? And Picard's a real kind of condescending dick to him, isn't he? He's just like, did I stutter, LaForge?
Yeah, that's right.
Ask the rest of the bridge, like, did I stutter?
Yeah.
Does a captain have to explain every order?
I think he actually asks Troy that, doesn't he? Like, should a captain
Yeah, he
have
does.
to...
He looks right out. He's just like, you there,
Woman, what's your name?
Captain Wow.
We got our first encounter with Chief O'Brien now, so we're kind of wandering around the bowels of the ship, and one of the Anticans is kind of down there trying to hunt the Selly, one of the Selly lizardmen.
They both kind of poke their heads out of adjoining doors, just like, why is the ship done at 180? And then they see each other, and it's like...
That's right. Do that again. What was that?
They go...
Sound effect. We're really upping the budget on these podcasts now, aren't we? We have sound effects.
Good lord.
Yeah. Do you think our budget kind of matches these early episodes?
I think it does, yeah.
It's about 50 pence.
Yeah, about $7, give or take.
So they all kind of have this meeting now, don't they? Crusher, Data, Troy, Riker, and they're all kind of planning. Are they planning a mutiny? Aren't they?
Yeah, basically, yeah. It's like instant mutiny as soon as he orders this 180, and they say that we can't have a mutiny based off of this one suspicion. We need hard proof that there is something wrong with the captain, or that he's acting in a way that might endanger the vessel and everybody on board. So Riker and Crusher go and confront the captain, who's just kind of staring longingly out of a window.
I'll be honest, I kind of love this scene.
I do love it as well, especially when he kicks his feet up on the desk, just like, I'm very busy.
That's the bit I really liked. And he kind of turns it around on them and makes them kind of think that they're the ones who are crazy.
Yeah, they raise their suspicions that, they think that maybe there is something wrong with the captain. He says, I'm thinking that there's probably something wrong with the two of you. You need to get yourself down to sickbay immediately and get yourself scanned. Yeah. And they're like, uh-huh. And he's like, do I need to get security to get you down to sickbay? Because I'm very busy. And that's when he kicks his feet up on the desk, and it's like, oh, shit.
Yeah, he's absolutely owning it, isn't he?
Yeah.
We do now pop down to Riker wandering around the ship looking kind of very unhappy, and we get get this this moment with the celly where they kind of try and snare him.
Yeah, they've got this like glow stick lasso.
It is. It's like it's fresh from a rave party, isn't it?
Yes. Why does it need to have a glow stick on it? Why can't it just be a lasso?
I don't know, because the glow stick like apparently adds nothing. It doesn't like immediately incapacitate Riker like you think it might do if it was like some sort of energy kind of lasso.
You know, if anything, you can just see it coming from a fucking country mile away because it's glow in the dark.
And do you know what? I'm not even convinced they would get that lasso around one of the Antikins' heads.
No, have you seen the size of those things?
So maybe they're just designed. They were literally just there to piss off Riker.
I think they were just there to piss off Riker. I mean, you're not getting over the head of the Sealy. I mean, they've got like their head's like a basketball.
Yeah, that's right. Again, it's filler, isn't it? This is total filler.
It is, yeah. This scene goes absolutely nowhere, and we go back to the captain's room, and it's just Crusher now going to speak to Jean-Luc on her own, and she asks him, "Are you Jean-Luc?"
Yeah.
He says yes, and he's like, "Is there somebody else in there with you?" And that's when he's like, "We are going home," or something, and like, uh-oh.
That's right. So at this point, I'm a bit confused. I don't know how you felt about this. But he's kind of admitted that there's like some sort of alien presence in him, or he's not himself. Well, why don't they immediately kind of take his captaincy off him and, you know, relieve him of command or whatever?
Exactly. You fuckers have seen Event Horizon. As soon as Sam Neill started to turn, they should have cut his head off.
Definitely. Are you suggesting we cut Picard's head off?
No, I don't think we should cut Picard's head off. I couldn't live with myself.
We could use one of those Antikin weapons that might do the job.
Who else would sing Gilbert and Sullivan?
It's very true. So kind of Picard does this big reveal, doesn't he, to like the crew and like the audience on the bridge that they've kind of you know, that he's been kind of captured by this sentient sort of energy, and that they want to go, you know, float around in the energy cloud and be one and all this amazing stuff.
Yeah, he says that, you know, when you pass through the cloud, you snatch me up. There was nothing I could do. I kind of got trapped in your ship. I tried to cry for aid in various ways that you couldn't understand, so I had to take extreme measures, and now this is happening. And Picard puts the ship into red alert, or how does the ship end up in red alert? I know that the alarm's going off when he marches himself off down to the transporter.
Well, he does this kind of pushes like some energy, I guess, into one of the consoles, and then we get this like, I'm going to say dodgy lightning effect. It's pretty dodgy.
That's when, he like Raiden Mortal Kombat zaps everybody in place, doesn't he? Like,
oh god, the acting on that moment is so bad. Because they're all just
it's awesome.
Sort of standing there like shivering, aren't they?
Like, I'm blind, I can't
Someone
see.
stop the captain.
Oh man, it just reminded me of Highlander a little bit, to be honest.
Yeah, that's a good point.
There can only be one. Number one.
Yeah, we basically Picard goes to the transporter room, doesn't he? And he beams himself over to the energy cloud.
Energy only.
Energy only. Yeah.
Which doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Like, shouldn't there just be like a husk left on the ground in the transporter bay? Just like a boneless husk. Like,
I love it. Yeah, just like bits of Picard. Do you know what? I mean, like a sci-fi show, you have to suspend your disbelief and you have to go along with it. But at this point, like, I call bullshit because he beams over with like the transporter, and like, yeah, the transporter, that's kind of, I don't think that technology could ever really exist. But whatever. But then, like, an hour later, they're still trying to, like, hatch this plan to rescue the captain. And it's like, no, he beamed over as energy, like, an hour ago. You're not going to find him again, surely.
That is legitimately a needle in a haystack. I mean, how wide is that fart cloud? How many millions of light years?
Exactly. It's just, I don't know. Oh, and then we've really got the worst moment, I think, of the episode. We've got Troy saying that she can sense the captain out there alone.
Yeah, this is such crap.
It's total bullshit.
This is how they find Picard again. Troy just kind of picks up on his scent, like, I can smell his fart. Back to the cloud. We've got him.
But he's pure energy at this point. So what the hell is Troy sensing?
I have no idea. Like, he's alone and scared. Shut up.
And then, we kind of have this moment, don't we, where like Picard kind of finds himself back into the ship's circuitry.
This is when he makes a P out of the lights.
P for Picard.
P for Picard. Duh. I never would have fucking guessed.
P for piece of shit.
P for piece of shit. I love your note. The shit sprinkles now come.
It is.
It sums it up perfectly. It really does.
But we do have, with basically 1 minute to go, we have the big red reset button, which is that Data is able to magically kind of re-transport the captain back into the captain's body.
I was hoping to make another Spaceballs joke. He would come in, but backwards with his ass facing forwards. Why didn't anyone tell me my ass was so big?
That would be great, wouldn't it? That's the president, isn't it? Is that the president?
It is, yeah. President Scrooge.
Yeah. And then I have we've got the final kind of turd in the punch bowl now, which is the Antikins have eaten one of the Selly.
They've actually managed to fry up. Did they eat it, or did they go down and ask the cook to prepare
some reptile meat?
Yeah, that's it.
And
yeah.
one of the Selly are missing.
And they all just kind of look at each other and laugh about it,
yeah. Oh, those
Antikins.
wacky delegates.
Those wacky Antikins.
What will they do next?
Hopefully nothing. I hope we never see these guys again.
No, I think occasionally we might see them in the odd DS9 as a background extra, but we never get them in a plot ever again. Thank God.
That's fine. That's fine. We're not doing DS9. Not yet, anyway. My God.
And that was a wrap. That was episode 7, Lonely Among Us.
Wow. Yeah.
Jesus. So I'll pass it over to Tom for his opinion.
Well, I mean, it's going to sound like such a cut and paste review from sort of previous episodes that we've done, but it really is another one of those that just sort of meanders again. There is a plot, there are kind of introductions to new characters, there is a death, but it's still not all that exciting. It's not as exciting as it should be. I mean, we have 2 alien races on board that we do nothing with other than kind of make a goofy joke out of. They look terrible anyway, so I mean, it really doesn't do much for the credibility of the episode. I think they could have cut this B plot out entirely and just had a strong, consistent A plot to do with this entity kind of messing with the ship, getting control of people. I don't know, it's sort of been done before, people acting funny on board the Enterprise in these early episodes and not being themselves and trying to sabotage the ship in some way. But I would have honestly taken another 20 minutes of Brent Spiner acting like a detective over this insane B plot with the Antikins, I forget the name already. The Selly, yeah, that's it.
The David Icke.
I mean, it had its moments. It wasn't a terrible episode, but all in all, it wasn't that strong. I'm probably hovering around the D grade again for this one.
The D, yeah. So I'm kind of echoing all these thoughts, but I don't even think that the kind of A plot was particularly strong in any way. So yeah, the B plot was just terrible. These delegates, whatever, totally forgettable. But the A plot, they actually do in kind of later TNG episodes. They kind of have the whole possession thing done kind of a few more times. I think I can think of at least 3 or 4 episodes where they have entities possessed, and they do it so much better.
Yeah,
because there's just no suspense. I think that's what's missing. There's actually no real peril in any of it.
No, there's no real stakes apart from the last kind of 5 minutes of the episode with Picard.
Yeah,
and that is literally it.
It just feels so contrived, and I know saying that about a sci-fi show but it's just you have to suspend. You have to be able to suspend your disbelief, and this episode you just can't, because there's so much stuff that just flat out doesn't make sense, or it's played really badly with the acting. I'm honestly pretty low on this episode. I mean, I'm almost into the kind of the E grade.
Okay. So I guess we'll have to meet somewhere in the middle.
I could kind of stretch to a D- if that float your boat.
I'm happy with a D-. Any E+, D- turf.
I'm reluctant to put any kind of plus on this because I just don't think it really. It's gonna sound, anyone who's listening to this show, if you are listening, thank you. But it's good.
Yeah, of course.
But it's gonna sound like we hate Star Trek. Honestly, we don't. But these early episodes of TNG, if you haven't watched them recently, and I suspect a lot of fans probably don't watch these episodes regularly, because they're generally not the favourite kind of episodes. Go back and watch them and just compare them to your favourite episodes, because they really do deserve the scorn we give them. I believe.
Yeah, honestly, I think we'll look back on these and realise that we worked hard enough on these episodes. Yeah. What have we got for next week?
Next week we have Justice, episode 8. Justice.
Justice. Okay. Have we got any hints about next week's episode?
I do. Yeah. So this is one I actually remember. I've not seen it in a long time, but I do remember it. It's the one where Wesley steps on the grass and gets a death penalty sentence for it.
Oh, that's right.
For walking on the grass.
Damn straight as well.
I think they just spotted it was Wesley, and they were like, right, any excuse, and we're having that little shit.
Anything. That's it. Stepping on the grass, jaywalking, chewing gum without a permit.
Yeah, having a name of Wesley Crusher. So do you have any final thoughts on this one, or should we wrap it up?
I'd only really be parroting what I said in the review of it, really. It's not a particularly strong episode. These early eps in this first season, honest to God, I'm surprised that it wasn't immediately cancelled sometimes. But I guess there just wasn't that much on TV back then. But I'm glad that it wasn't, because, I mean, there's some amazing episodes coming up, but we just kind of have to get there first.
Yeah, that's right. Now, do you think that's because we're looking at this through 2018 eyes, or... I mean, because I think these episodes, they didn't review very well when they were first broadcast.
Yeah, looking at reviews, it didn't review that strongly. Be honest with you, it's mostly a lot of the stuff we're saying now was kind of what they were saying in 1987.
That's good to hear, isn't it?
I don't think much has changed.
Although you might argue that we're being utterly unoriginal. Then, do you think anyone would actually love these episodes? I mean, I guess it's a kind of.
I think you must do, yeah. I think there'll be for a lot of people it'll be nostalgia. Yeah, maybe plays a strong part.
There is a kind of kitschiness to them, isn't there?
Yeah.
I'm just looking at on our notes the moment where Riker gets snared by the.
I love the fact that you've screen capped that. We need to put this in the.
Do you think that's the episode art?
I think so, yeah. I just love the look he's giving them after he gets it off of his head. They're just like, what the fuck was that?
He's just been like taken to town, isn't he, by Picard, and then he gets that like immediately afterwards.
He gets hooked with a glow stick by a bunch of psychedelic lizards.
Do you know what? For that reason alone, I might bump up my grade to a D just because it is hilarious.
It is good. You know what? Looking at these screenshots, they kind of fuck it. B+.
Let's just have an episode of Riker walking down the corridor, repeatedly getting snared.
If you could make this into a GIF and loop it for 45 minutes, I would give this episode an A+.
Okay, challenge accepted.
So, that was Rich Hurts Die First. We will see you next time.
Join us soon. And remember to catch us on spiltbrew.com for all of our podcast goodness. Cheers.
Yes.
Next time on Star Trek The Next Generation.
They certainly are a fit.
The crew visits a planet of sensual pleasure.
Death?
By breaking any law.
But an innocent violation
No, Wes!
puts Wesley's life in jeopardy.
Drop it now.
And despite everyone's rescue attempts,
He's being held safely until sundown.
he faces an alien death sentence on Star Trek The Next Generation.
That will suggest that whatever improbably must be the truth, or whatever improbable... Hang on, what?
Best podcast ever.
God. This is just the whatever improbable...
What are you saying? What are you trying to say, Tom? Get a grip, come on.
I have no idea. Save me, dude.
Whatever improbable, or how... I don't even know. Whatever is, like, not probable will be the thing. Well done.